Hi, Asukuro. This is Gogotari.
This is Gogo Connie. How are you?
I hope you're well. I've missed you so much. I just want to take this opportunity to thank Gogo Connie for keeping this page or this platform alive. Thank you so much for standing in the gap. Thank you for providing our Sukuru with lots and lots of knowledge. And I'm so grateful for that. Now I'm back. I was busy. I had some projects that I was running, but now I'm back.
You're welcome, Gogotari. Yes, I worked so hard. I'm sure you saw that. Now she's back, and she's more like my left ventricle. She's back. So let's get stuck into business. In the last video, we talked about approaching the final destination and the baby being delivered when we are using our car journey analogy. So now the baby is delivered. You're all happy. It's like getting to a destination, getting out of the car and saying hello to your mom, to your auntie, to whoever, and you're getting stuck into being really happy with each other. That's like the baby being born. But as it is in a car journey, you get in, you say hello, but then you still got what? You still got baggage in the car. That baggage which is in the trunk will need to come out at some point. So, giving that example, we are talking about the third stage of labor, which is the delivery of the placenta. The placenta cannot stay in. The placenta needs to come out. So, just like when you get inside, you're talking to people, you can take the bags out in 5 minutes with some help, or you can wait for an hour to get the bags out. What I'm trying to say here is the delivery of the placenta can take up to an hour if it's done physiologically, if you don't use any drugs. But if you use any drugs, I'll hand that over to Auntie Tari.
Right. So we give you an option to choose what you would like, but we are here to give you knowledge or advice that is safe for you. So after the baby is born, we usually give you an injection, which we call oxytocin. Like it's an artificial type of contraction that we give you so that the uterus contracts and the placenta detaches and the placenta is delivered. It also helps for the uterus to contract so that you don't bleed a lot. Right? So when you get that injection, we just wait for like signs that show us that the placenta is separated, which we know as midwives that like it's a gush of blood, the lengthening of the cord, and you can actually at times visualize the placenta that it is detached. So we do that, but then at times, if we deliver the placenta, we examine the placenta, we might see that the placenta is not complete. We expect the placenta to be having like the complete lobes. It should not have like a missing lobe. That can happen, and that might cause problems with the contraction of your uterus. And that might cause your uterus not to contract well, and that will cause lots and lots of bleeding. You might be wondering where the bleeding really comes from. So the placenta detaches, right? It's like there's a big wound that's left there. So that big wound, it needs to be squeezed so that it gets smaller and smaller. So it's all vascular in the uterus. So anything that happens there just causes bleeding, right? So I was just touching on some of the things that might cause you to have bleeding. A lot of bleeding that we might call postpartum hemorrhage or major obstetric hemorrhage, which is life-threatening bleeding that can happen. Mm-hmm. So we need to know the causes of the bleeding. Like I've said, that at times you might be having a missing lobe, or maybe they're what we call membranes, or some of those membranes can remain in when we are delivering the placenta. So that may cause the uterus not to contract. So a tiny little thing can just cause the placenta not to contract, and it will continuously bleed. Tears also might cause bleeding, because there are tears that we might have maybe missed. Maybe there's a tear which is like kumberimberi that we can't really see. So teshungana bleeding. So until we arrest that hemorrhage by suturing or by just exploring to see what will be happening. Or there's some people naturally whose uteruses take too long to contract. We might try to rub up so that the hormones of pregnancy, they just are stimulated to just contract the uterus, but that might not happen. Like people who have got a high BMI, people who have got multiple pregnancies, or after having twin deliveries, or just people who just have like a problem of atony, like kuva muscles akanyanya kuva lax, which is difficult for the uteruses to contract, right?
What Tari has been explaining is like, remember in our first trimester series when we talked about the placenta being formed into the uterus, we said it forms a tight fit. That tight fit is the placenta attaching itself to the uterine wall, and there is vessels feeding into the placenta, obviously to keep the baby alive and to make the pregnancy viable. And when the placenta comes off, the body, the uterus, has got to form what we call living ligatures, where it ties off every vessel that has been feeding into the placenta. And just like if you don't take everything out of the boot, or if something is hanging out of the boot of your car, the boot will not close properly. That's akin to that. So when that placenta is delivered, it's important for us to, as midwives, to make sure it's complete. And also going back to the oxytocin that Tari has talked about, the artificial version of the hormone that our bodies would normally produce. Sometimes if a labor has been going on for too long, instead of waiting for the placenta to come out on its own after an hour, because we know the uterus has been contracting for too long, the labor has been long, we help with that injection, because the uterus is a muscle, and muscles can get tired, and sometimes it needs help to really contract and clamp down so that you don't bleed. So it's the shortest part of labor, the third stage of labor, but
most important.
It is the most important, and it can be the most dangerous. And as midwives, we really have to be cued on to look at what is happening with that uterus. So sometimes you'd find that after even the placenta is delivered, we'll still rub on your uterus, because we can see that you're bleeding a lot, what we call rubbing up a contraction. We keep our hand there. It's extremely uncomfortable. We can't help it. You can live with being uncomfortable, but if you lose too much blood, that can have effects on your well-being and how you're going to cope afterwards, having what do you call it, low iron levels, because the more blood you lose, the less the lower your iron levels become. So once that is done, the placenta is delivered, we are happy. You are not bleeding. Like Tari was saying, I'm going back to our analogy of the car so that we understand it both from an anatomical point of view and to make it easier for everyone to understand. We check for tears, we check everything is okay, we check the placenta, we check the cavity to make sure that there is no tears, the cervix is not torn. After a time, we can't really visualize the cervix, but if there is too much bleeding coming, the doctors might do an exploration just to see if there is not, the further bleeding is not coming from high up or maybe the cervix. So we check all that. Just like you'd go in the car and make sure that you didn't drop your charger, you didn't drop something in the car, you'd make sure everything is fine. And if all that is fine, we leave you to get familiar with your baby and as a family, and we give what we call a golden hour. Just like when you come in, you settle in, you're having a cup of tea before you explore the next part of the journey, or you get into what you have visited for. So we are going to continue with our car journey analogy when we talk about the transition from the immediate postpartum period where the baby is delivered and the hormones involved in settling into parenthood. And on this one, I say parenthood because it's not just the mother, it's now the dad involved, and there is a third human involved, and it shifts dynamics sometimes in the relationship. So
if I can just add on, right? So when it comes to the contraction of the uterus, the body itself has got natural mechanisms that it has to help the uterus to contract. So I just want to explain something that you feel after you deliver. You feel something like period pain cramps. At times it can be quite bad. So that's just a natural way that the body does, it produces that oxytocin to help the uterus to contract. So naturally the body produces oxytocin, but then we just give it a bit of help. So you find that the more you feed baby, the more you put baby on the breast, that oxytocin is also released. So it helps to contract the uterus as well. So that explains the pains, because some people will be like, okay, now I've delivered my babies, but I'm still feeling these pains. We actually call them afterbirth pains. It just encompasses everything. There's just pain down there because of the pushing and everything. There's also pain around the lower abdominal pain. So all that is expected. But remember what we always say, we don't, if it's not a lot, if you can take paracetamol, ibuprofen, and it goes away, then that's fine. But if you take paracetamol, ibuprofen, it is still excruciating, then you need to seek medical attention, because it could be something else.
Okay, thank you.
See you the next time.